Welcome to Pay Attention, a podcast guiding you from the chaos of the mind to the clarity of the heart. Here's your host, Holly McNEILL.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 2 of Pay Attention. I am so grateful. I'm so glad that you're here. Happy New Year. I hope that everyone is finding the new year with an open heart and joyful. But if you're a little bit stuck and not knowing you want to do something in this new year, but not knowing what, let me tell you, I was at that place once, and I realized that mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, we are all connected. And so those are all connected, right? And so if you work on one, the others will follow. When I hit my really low point, I started with meditation, I started with mindfulness, and things started to roll. I started to work out, to eat better. So today I have a guest I had a guest in the studio, an osteopathic doctor of osteopathy. And I don't know why they make that word so hard for me to pronounce, but a doctor of osteopathy is more holistic, mind-body connection. And in this case, less is more with Dr. Neal Patel. So Dr. Patel is actually my doctor. And I don't know about you, but I personally have moved 32 times in my life across all 4 time zones in the United States. And one of the biggest hardships when you move to a new place is, besides, meeting new friends and everything, is finding a new hairdresser and a new doctor. And I have a lovely hairdresser, Trini. Love you. He's wonderful. They're wonderful. And at first, I found this DO, doctor of osteopathy, this woman. She was lovely. Being out here in California, in Southern California, she really spoke my language, more holistically, kind of mental, physical connection. And then she had to move away. So for a couple of years, I kind of floundered, but then I found Dr. Patel. And I went to see him, and we had a great conversation, so much information, and everything he talked about spoke my language. So I brought him into the studio. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here live today because he's with patients. But please sit back, take a deep breath, and listen to what he has to say. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Pay Attention. Today, I'm really excited to talk to somebody in the medical field about holistic healing, about the mind-body connection, about, what he has said, less is more. And so I'm very excited to introduce to you Dr. Neal Patel, an osteopath, correct?
Correct.
So welcome, Neal, to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, your practice, and I've got so many questions.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Holly. So as you mentioned, I'm a doctor of osteopathy, which means I'm a full-on doctor. I currently work here in the city of Orange. I do have a private practice where I see adults, and my practice is mainly focused towards geriatrics. I'm general practice, so we treat everything and anything under the sun. My personal philosophy in medicine has always been less pills, less doctors, less surgeries, less procedures, the better. I'm very big on holistic care and trying to find ways to have my patients help themselves before I have to help them.
Yes, thank you. And let's talk about that for a minute. I've heard it said that Western medicine is all about the diagnosis and the treatments and treating the symptoms and the medications, like you said, in the surgeries. And Eastern medicine was more seated in the self. Are you seated in the self? Are you whole? And so my take on osteopathic medicine is that it's obviously a medical degree, but more holistic. So with that in mind, how much do you think that the illness in our body, what people experience relates to their mental health?
I would say a lot. Back in the day as a doctor, let's say you came to me as a patient and said, "Hey, I got, X, Y, and Z symptoms." And we do all these testing and it's all normal. If I said, "Oh, maybe it's due to stress," you may look at me as a quack doctor. And now a lot has changed, and we're really starting to see the connection between mental or emotional stress and how it can manifest itself physically. So I definitely think there's a huge area of research that's already been going on, and now actual like data showing yes, stress can actually physically affect us in many different ways.
Yeah, many ways. I mean, I tend to believe on my journey, I've looked at neuroscience, psychology, Buddhism, spirituality, and I'm amazed by it. And there's a book, The Body Keeps Score, and how much that energy and the traumas you've had in your lifetime, the unresolved diversities or you have get caught in there and cause a lot of that mental illness. On my journey in particular, the more I open up and let go, the better I feel. And so what do you say to someone who comes to you and is just really stuck and what's the best way to kind of move forward if you're wanting to find a more holistic way to live life and to feel better?
Yeah, usually, like I said, I'm very big on habits. So we always start with, for me, it's like the four pillars of just general and healthy living that are in our control. So those four to me is food, of course. So food and diet, our exercise, our stress, and sleep. So when I have a patient that comes in and says, "Hey, I got these symptoms going on, or I don't want to take pills, but I want to improve. What can I do?" So I start with those four pillars. Obviously, we start with food, what you're eating, how much you're eating, when you eat. Of course, exercise. Do you exercise or not? That's just, step one. Then, of course, you look at sleep. Are you sleeping? Do you feel rested? Do you get enough? And then stress, like we mentioned, we don't want to discount it or neglect it. And I always ask, not only are you stressed, but what do you do to manage it, good or bad?
Yeah, let's talk about stress for a minute. And would you say that stress and kind of your mental health are similar things? Because it depends on, where you are as far as your own capacities to deal with things, that when something comes up, it's either going to hit you much harder or much lighter. So would you say that mental health and stress, they're not obviously the same, but your mental health informs how you deal with stress?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. A lot of times you go through school, right? All of us as kids have to learn reading and science and physics, but do we really learn how to self regulate our emotions, how to manage our emotions, especially in the moment of like a crisis or in that moment of a stressful event? So, to make it clear, yes, stress definitely affects your mental health, and it becomes like a chicken and egg. The mental health isn't good, that might make you feel stressed, and the stress can also impact your mental health. So overall, there's definitely a major correlation. And ironically, especially my patients, I say, "Oh, are you stressed?" I say, "Oh, yeah, that's normal." We're coming to a point in life now where stress is now the normal way of being, which I don't really agree with.
Right. And that stress causes inflammation, right? A lot of times stress causes inflammation in your body, and it's inflammation that can cause a lot of that trouble. And if you're not taught, like we're not taught, as you said, when we're younger, how to deal with emotions and traumas when they come in. And so you're right. It's normal in the fact that it's habitual. This is the habit that we have. But what we don't recognize is that it's slowly, not, I mean, killing us. That can eventually be, without that stress, you may have lived a lot longer. So I have a friend whose mother is, she's got fluid on her lung. She has lupus. And they asked her, they call it broken heart disease, as I'm sure you know. And they said, did you have something tragic happen lately? And it wasn't so much that as it was just a lot of life, a life full of this normal stress. And it's killing her. She was in the hospital for 11 days. And what percentage of, I don't know. I mean, if people really meditated more and really looked inside more and started to see those habits and patterns and question them, I mean, how much better could they feel?
I think a lot. I mean, a lot of times, we live on a physical realm for the most part. A lot of things we feel or think, they're just happening to us on a physical aspect. And then we never say, "Oh, stress could no way cause me to feel pain," or sometimes the unconscious and our stress is so powerful, it will either scream at you or remind you in very severe ways. Like even sometimes like people who get cancer, you always wonder, was that something that maybe stress could have triggered? Who knows, right? That's usually I like to use stress as a last case resort. We always want to check everything medically, right? Blood work, imaging. But I got a lot of patients, everything's normal and they're still feeling off. And I say, well, maybe it is stress. If you neglect it, it will find its way out.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say it. I think that, and in my experience, I think that the more you can let go of those patterns of stress, the more you can see them, see what you're reacting to, the better you feel. Let's talk about meditation for a while, right? And the Tibetan word gom for meditation means to become familiar with. And so really meditation is just really, first of all, checking in to see what you're even telling yourself. A lot of people probably don't even know what their stress levels are coming from, or why they're there. So do you recommend meditation, or what's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. It's just kind of the same thing as, why do we brush our teeth? What's the point? Like, who cares? Why don't I always tell my patients, don't brush your teeth, don't exercise. Why don't you just wait till you feel symptoms, until you have pain? Like, that's not the point. The whole point is prevention. Just as you would brush your teeth or maybe make your morning coffee, you want to incorporate meditation as part of your routine. And a lot of people ask me, what does meditation mean? Usually it's anything that can kind of distract your mind or put your entire focus on anything. So even exercise is like meditation. Some people play instruments, right? They're so engulfed in it. I think Michael Jordan used to say his most important or quiet time or peace of mind came on the basketball court.
Yeah, it's really where you focus your mind. It's really, if you're not focusing your mind is on autopilot, going back into that black box of the subconscious and rerunning and reworking those patterns, which a lot of them are negative and stressful, unhealthy, and habitual. So yeah, meditation is it's the first step, I think, to unraveling a lot of those patterns that have keep you stuck and in pain. Because yeah, I really believe that, the is it the hypothalamus that sends all, every time you stress out, it's sending all those chemicals down into your body, and your cells all have receptors and they're all picking them up. And so you're, without that understanding of what's causing your stress, of your mental health, of what habits you're living off of, your body's really reinforcing those patterns.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what happens is like I said, we think we're obviously smart, and I hear this too. So, oh, I have this like pain in my body. I've never had it. And I ask, are you stressed? It's like, yeah, I've been stressed for years, but I've never had pain. So I try to explain that your body, each cell of your body has memory. It's just not your brain that has memory. And unfortunately, your body will remind you of what has happened when it wants to remind you. So I explain how the body is basically your unconscious mind for a lot of people. So when it starts to scream or act up or talk to you, listen because it's trying to tell you something.
And it's not just, as you said before, as if people can't see it, it can't be real. But I love that. The body is like a barometer. It's telling you something. And so just to treat it symptomatically, with the calm and or medications, doesn't change the pattern. It doesn't change your mind is designed to keep you safe. And yeah, and so it did these things, to keep you, like when you were in, when you needed them, to keep you from being vulnerable and so forth. But they've kind of gone haywire. So yeah, this holistic practice of eating right and exercising, of course. I believe spiritually, mentally, and physically all are connected. So if you just start to eat right, start to move in a direction of positivity towards yourself, and the other things start to also show up, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely big on the habits, and that's why I try to cater to patients like what is realistic. Like if I tell you eat rice cakes all day and spend 30 minutes in a quiet room, everybody has a life to live. So it has to be practical. So I'm very big on just even like 2 minutes, 1 minute. I'm always big on plus one, minus one. So add one more extra minute of meditation, maybe minus 1 minute of like scrolling on social media, minus 1 minute of TV, plus extra minute of silence. So you just start to build on those habits.
I love that. I think that's perfect. I often describe it as like it's like moving an ocean liner, right? And you're going in the wrong direction. If your health, if you're feeling a lot of chronic pain, suffering, also depression and anxiety, but you're going to have to, it takes a lot to turn an ocean liner around, but every degree, helps. So baby steps. And my practice of 1 minute, 6 times a day, just to watch your mind and make the habit of watching the mind. Because we talked before that ultimately at the subatomic level, we are, smaller than the electrons and neutrons, or all those quarks and leptons, these energy fields that surround us, the biofield, they call it. And when you don't pay attention, all of that stuff gets stuck in your body and causes inflammation and long-term inflammation. I imagine, and you can correct me where I'm wrong, when you start feeling some of this pain or these cancers show up, it's after a long time of inflammation.
Yeah, absolutely. Just same thing, right? That's why the whole point is your body is remembering every insult per se to it, but it's not going to always remind you of every small little time that something's messed up until the point where your body cannot take it. Just like how as humans, maybe we can put up with bad behavior or whatever situation until you can't take it. And that's what's happening as well.
Exactly. So you might, somebody who's going to come in and say, "Oh, I never felt this before, and I've always done the same thing." It's like you were working toward, your body's like, "Okay, I got you, I got you, I got you," and then finally it can't take it anymore. So yeah, I think that that kind of process of understanding and knowing and self care is really important. And I don't think that there's enough about that what we can't see, right? That those energies that when you can pick up from people, you can pick up from the environment around you, the people around you. This woman I was talking to who has this lupus, and she's in her environment. She's in a situation where there's a lot of daily stress, and even talking about these things, or talking to a therapist or a friend, or just really understanding how your mind is working is going to change the way you feel. So let's talk a little bit about, and one of my favorite topics is the what they said is the endocannabinoid system.
Yes.
Really? Yeah. So long ago and far away, when weed was popular, the tobacco industry came in and said how bad it is, and really got it made illegal. And so I think a lot of research on the cannabinoid system um, didn't happen for a long time. And now that cannabinoids, CBD and THC are becoming legal in some states and most states, there's more research. So tell us a little bit about the endocannabinoid system. People don't even really know what that is, but it's a full body system, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, endocannabinoid system, as you kind of allude to, cannabis, cannabinoid, right? If you think about it, so cannabis is basically, what you find marijuana, THC. Your body has an already built-in system for, I guess, its own cannabinoids that are built in. So it's like a feel-good system in a sense, but it does more than just to make you feel good. It's like if you think of your nervous system, right? It controls all different types of processes and different functions. Imagine the nervous system has like a web over it that controls that. That's like the cannabinoid system. So it's kind of like another thermostat besides your hypothalamus to help regulate a lot of different functions in your body, including, mood, appetite. Now there's studies even for like dementia, for maybe even diabetes. So it's so intricately connected with our nervous system and our body that it spans across basically every organ. And so the idea is, right, when let's say you run or you have a runner's high, sometimes your body can release certain endocannabinoids, which is naturally forming cannabinoids your body produces. However, with the advent of cannabis, or the plant, marijuana plant, cannabis sativa, they found that molecule binds directly to the endocannabinoid system. And so we're finding out now, obviously, it's not a new thing. Cannabis has been around for like thousands of years, but now we're doing actual proper studies that can be helpful for so many things, including even for your patient or your friend, the lupus, anxiety, for sleep, for appetite, even for cancer. They're saying that it can maybe even help decrease your issues with it or decrease inflammation. So it's kind of a whole body system meant to help regulate different parts. And now it's being studied for its medicinal purposes.
Wow. Wow. Now it's finally being studied for its medicinal purposes, but it sounds like it's got so many benefits. And how early on are we in this research, and how long ago was this endocannabinoid system kind of really discovered?
Yeah, it's great questions. I mean, in terms of cannabis itself, it's been forever, but the endocannabinoid system was discovered, I want to say, late 80s to early 90s in Israel. I'm blanking on his name. There's a famous Israeli scientist who actually discovered the endocannabinoid system in different parts of it. So at least in the US, our history has been kind of up and down with it. It used to be allowed way back in the 20s. You fast forward all the way to the 70s. That's when Nixon kind of produced that, Controlled Substance Act, which made it technically a Schedule 1 drug, which means it has zero medicinal value. And Schedule 1 or Class 1 puts it as the same detriment and concern as like heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine. So at this moment, it's definitely being studied in different parts of the world. I mean, there's thousands of studies in general, just because of how well it's been, or how often and frequently it's been used. For us specifically, we're still considered a Class 1 drug. The goal is they're debating. There's a lot of political questions if it's going to get declassified or descheduled into what they call Schedule 3. When that happens, hopefully that means there's a lot less addictive potential and there are some medical value to it. So until that happens on a higher level, like a federal, each state is kind of plus and minus, right? I think 30 to 35 states have decriminalized or legalized cannabis for recreational use. That's on a state level. Federally speaking, though, it is still considered illegal and no medical value. So
No
I'm
medical
hoping
value still, even with the research still.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of other players that are involved. So I
It's
think there's
such
a
a
lot of other
shame.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a shame. So what happens when your endocannabinoid system is off? I mean, is that the inflammation, or if it's out of balance?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the whole point. Like this, there's two major receptors: CB1, cannabinoid 1 receptor, and cannabinoid 2 receptors that are part of it. It's not necessarily that's off, that sometimes there's an imbalance, or that maybe you're not producing enough as well. So the CB1 receptor is mainly found in your central nervous system. So THC, as like the main most people know as the one that gets you high, that's found a lot in the central nervous system. That's what makes you high. Other ones like CBD can be found in both the CB1 central and CB2, which is peripheral nervous system. So what happens is if it's low or is out of balance, yes, it can cause inflammation. Maybe it can cause some anxiety or the sleep issues. So the thought process is maybe if we supplement it with either natural ways of increasing your endocannabinoids, or if not, with the actual THC or CBD, which are called phytocannabinoids, maybe we can rebalance your system.
Which is a benefit of helping that inflammation. What are natural ways to increase or your
Yeah,
to
you
rebalance?
mentioned it kind of about foods, right? Food itself
Yeah.
is inflammatory, so you want to eat healthy foods. In general, the Mediterranean diet is the most well-studied diet for heart disease. There's a modified Mediterranean diet called the Mind diet that can help with hopefully decreasing your risk for like Alzheimer's or dementia. And then
Wow.
exercise. Exercise has been huge, heavily studied, heavily recommended for everything, including kind of releasing those endocannabinoids.
Wow. So diet and exercise, right back to
Yeah, it goes back to it.
those two pillars. Yeah. And it is that inflammation
Yeah.
that's caused by food and stress and all of that that ultimately leads to lots of complications. Talk to me. So kind of beyond meditation and that, and kind of back to this kind of what we can see and what we can't see. What are your thoughts on like energy healing, Reiki, chakra clearing, and those types of things?
Yeah, I know it sounds sometimes, as a Western medicine, we're very, show me the evidence, show me the data, show me the science. Like, if I cannot quantify it, that means it's not real. If I cannot qualify it, it's not real. I believe science, or most people believe science and medicine is an art and a science. So that's the beauty of medicine. So for me, I'm a big believer in, like we talked about, energy, just because, just from a physical aspect, we're like, as light, and we are technically light based, we are waves and particles, which mean we vibrate at different frequencies. So the energy healing is the whole point. If you heal your energy, can you vibrate at different levels? I personally started doing Reiki about in April. I've done it a few times, and it has helped me kind of clear my energy, cut cords, as what they call it, or cut ties with maybe different relations or different energies from the past. So that, I believe in chakras still. A big believer in that, in terms of opening it up, and that itself can be an imbalance. So if that's imbalance, that can also affect your stress levels.
Yeah, yeah, that's that holistic healing, and I love it. And if we are indeed waves and particles, and why? And I just wish if we understood this more, right? If it's something we were taught early on as children about how, if we are waves and particles, our thoughts and emotions, our thoughts especially, affect those so dramatically that ultimately it can cause cancers and all kinds of chronic pain and so forth. So obviously, we're not in a world where we're taught all of this stuff early on, but I do appreciate kind of the holistic way of looking at things. And I'm really a fan of your less is more. So typically at this point in the episode, I ask if there's a tip, if there's someone out there going, okay, this is what I want. This is for me, you know, and you've given many tips already, but what would you tell someone with like, hey, I really want to know my mind better and my body better and clear those energies and and find that peace when and I'll ask you the question in a minute, but I find when I've actually stopped thinking, my whole body, right? Zen Buddhism is all about stopping thinking or non-thinking, and my whole body just relaxes. So anyway, so what do you tell someone who's like, yes, that's what I want?
Yeah, that's, there's so many things. We talked about meditation very, like, loosely, right? We talked about different ways that you can meditate, you know, and I'm, like I said, I'm always very realistic with today's lifestyle. We're busy working, you got kids, family, social media. You don't have time for this, and maybe you're booked, you got activities, and then you got to watch this. I would say something, well, realistic, but maybe the hardest yet easiest thing to do is nothing. So what that means is you find or carve out time, I don't know, either during work, nighttime, morning, whatever works for you. I tell patients 5 minutes, that's it. I want you to sit quietly for 5 minutes and stare at a wall. And that's it. That's actually a Dutch practice called Niksen that was around, established in the 2000s, 2010s. They recommend you just do nothing. And from there, sit with your thoughts. And like you mentioned, non-observing or non-thinking is to observe your thoughts
Yes.
versus
That's what
absorb.
mindfulness is, moment to moment, non-judgmental, curious awareness, just becoming aware of them.
Exactly. Not to control your thoughts, but yeah, it's to just watch it like you're watching a movie screen. So that's why I tell patients, don't observe your thought, or excuse me, observe your thoughts, don't absorb your thoughts.
Yes,
You
right.
kind of
Don't
can see
react
that.
to them. You're just watching.
But
Yeah,
5 minutes.
yeah, that's great. That's great. And I can tell you, if you do that consistently for 5 minutes a day,
Mhm.
you are going to start to see things differently because your brain takes on new habits. It doesn't discriminate between good and bad conditioning. So if all of a sudden you're just sitting there in what will become clarity for you, if you do that consistently, yeah, the brain will take it on and you might be able to do it more in your daily life, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then that way, like I said, all about habits. So 5 minutes, or even if you don't have 5 minutes, 1 minute, no phone, no kids, no music, nothing. Just
Yeah.
1 minute timer, and just see how you feel and what comes up or doesn't.
Yeah, what changes. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know we talked about a lot, but it's all there's so much out there, and definitely I could have you back again in this holistic living, and seeing how you're living and that clarity and peace that can come through. So, Dr. Patel, how do they get a hold of you if people are interested in connecting with you, hearing more?
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So I'm also now on social media. So I've been actually doing these types of talks educationally as well. So the best way actually to get a hold of me is through my, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, whatever. To just follow me, and then on there is all my information, including like my website. If you want to be a patient, that has my contact info or address. Yeah, you can follow me at Dr. Neal H. Patel, and it's Neal. So all one word, Dr. Neal H. Patel. I'm on all different social media platforms, and my goal is to try to help educate people in general to help themselves.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And I will definitely follow you, and we will have that information in the show notes. And I so appreciate a medical doctor out there really trying to tell people about this kind of holistic, seated in the self, and how to find your health outside of the surgeries and the pills. And yeah, it's the human journey. It's the clearing up the clutter, and it's a very peaceful way to live when you start spending those 5 minutes a day consistently. So thank you, Neal, for being here today, and thank you for the work you do. And yeah, I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Holly. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Thank you, listeners. Wow. I hope you got as much out of this as I did. And what I love is that, in my journey, there's all kinds of ancient wisdom that point back to this, that point back to finding that clarity, out of the chaos of your head into that clarity of your heart. And the body is telling you, what you need to set yourself free. So pay attention to it. Go out there, eat right, do some exercise, meditate, and you will find your way. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Pay Attention, and I will see you again. What what doctor is going to tell you to do nothing? I love that. The tip, right? Do nothing and see what comes up. I think that so much of our our health problems come from all that overthinking, come from that trying to compensate, trying to make life what we think we need rather than letting things be. I had a lovely guest here who I'm going to show your comment, saying that, what did she say? I agree with everything you're both saying. Happy New Year. Yeah, this is the new year, right? Thank you for reminding me. Is it Abla? Yeah, thank you for reminding me. This is the new year, the time to take care of yourself. And and we're all busy, right? But just taking a minute, 5 minutes to do nothing, to stare at a wall. Or start with eating just one more thing a day, an apple, one less time. We pick up our phones on average every 4 minutes, one less time a day. just slowly taking care of yourself, holistically, mentally, spiritually. Your body is such a scorekeeper. There is the book, The Body Keeps Score. Your body is such a scorekeeper, and really it's looking for you to pay attention, to relax, to breathe, to pause, and you will find your way. So I hope you enjoyed this first episode of season 2 of Pay Attention. We will see you next week.
Thanks for watching Pay Attention with Holly McNEILL. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week on Wednesday at 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern.